For more on this, we're now joined by MMC of Safety and Security for the City of Cape Town, JP Smith, and he joins us via telephone line. JP, thank you so much for joining us this evening here on SABC News. I mean, we just saw that report coming out from our reporter down in Cape Town. It really is quite concerning, especially during this time where you are experiencing an influx of local and international tourists in Cape Town.
We are definitely experiencing a bumper season of tourists. We can see our flights, domestic and international, are up. We've got the additional flights coming into Cape Town. Our roads are packed, so we can see that already the amenities are full, malls are full. We're definitely experiencing more visitors to Cape Town than in previous years, and that's good. That means that most of COVID is behind us. Around August, when a very significant number of parolees were released by national government, we started experiencing problems around the mountain and the lower reaches. This is the domain of the South African Police Service and Sandparks to Police. It's within the park territory. But after it was clear that the resources there were not going to get on top of the problem, we rolled out additional resources. We have 80 graduates who came out of college, and we have deployed these to the mountain. They're meant to be deployed elsewhere, but that will happen after the festive season. We've got a small tourism unit of 10 members, which the provincial government is helping us double up. And then we're working very closely with Sandparks and SABC. We're using good crime intel. We've brought additional cameras online. We repaired Sandparks' cameras. We brought thermal optics online. We're using our drones. And as a consequence, over the last few weeks, we've had 2-3 arrests per week. And in fact, in the last few days, I think we have started to turn the problem around. Last night at 1 o'clock, we arrested a person with an imitation firearm on the mountain. And we think that person is linked to several of these attacks. He's a prior offender. So I think that within the next week or two, the problem will be well under control.
And JP, when you look at these areas, I mean, Signal Hill, Tamboerskloof, and as well as Bo-Kaap, those are really kind of areas where we see a lot of tourists, who go out of their way to go out and see. One would say that it's quite clear here that they are targeting tourists.
Yeah, they do seem to be. They're targeting people who also are vulnerable, who are jogging alone or walking alone, and females as often as possible. But in between that, cyclists and otherwise, we've made some very good arrests. Aside from the arrest last night, we had a good arrest last week with 2 minors who ditched their clothing and had alternative clothing. We pursued them. We found the clothing they'd hidden. They were arrested. The court released them in the custody of their parents, but we're monitoring those 2 individuals and several others. So I think the level of surveillance on the mountain hiking groups and people participating there are giving us good feedback. So there's a very rapid exchange. We're coordinating all this through the city's fusion center. And so there's good crime intelligence moving between all the different stakeholders, including the City Centre Improvement District security personnel. And I think that you'll see the situation improve. We have advised tourists to walk in larger groups, to be careful when they walk when it's misty, because aside from any contact crime, the more common injury in the mountain in any case is people getting injured as a consequence of getting lost or falling off parts of the mountain or otherwise. So the emergency services will always be busy. People think that because it's in the middle of the city, it's safe. You can walk up there with flip-flops. It's still a mountain, and you can still misjudge the weather significantly.
And what went into the City of Cape Town's safety plan for the festive season? I mean, you are using things like drones and surveillance cameras. Clearly, it was something that you put a lot of thought into it to ensure that those who visit Cape Town will be safe.
Well, it's all of our visitors. It's the people in Cape Town who are going on holiday and who want to relax, who are going to our municipal swimming pools, who are going to our resorts along the 200 to 9 kilometer coastline, who are going to our to the shopping malls and other recreation facilities. So we've got additional personnel at those. We optimize our personnel's presence through overtime budgets. So we've got quite a significant overtime deployment at this time to maximize the staff's presence at all these amenities. We also redeploy staff while maintaining that careful balancing act of not depriving our most crime-affected communities with deployment resources, because that has shown significant results over the last 3 years. Cape Town's managed to reduce its murder rate by 14%, by 9%, and 11% in these LEAP areas, these priority wards where we deployed the law enforcement advancement program jointly with province, while the rest of South Africa over those 3 years have seen their murder rate rise by about 14%. So we know that the strategy is working, the crime information management is working, the additional investigations are working, the relationships and the informant management, the relationships with communities working. So we don't want to abandon that. That carries on. But we redeploy some of the rest of our resources to now focus on our beaches, to focus on roadblocks, and make sure that we keep the alcohol off our roads, that we try and manage drunk pedestrians because they're often the victims of motor vehicle accidents, and that we keep the alcohol off our beaches because that leads to drownings and unnecessary conflict. And we put a lot of effort into that already. We've confiscated or impounded quite substantial amounts of alcohol over these last weekends, and we'll be very diligent in these efforts.
And JP, how are you spreading the message to ensure that you do caution the residents of Cape Town as well as tourists when it comes to some of the problems you have encountered, especially at these tourist attractions in the city of Cape Town, to ensure that those who visit Cape Town and who stay in Cape Town are safe?
We've had quite extensive engagements with the tourism sector. I have personally engaged them, but so too our provincial minister, MEC Murray Wenger, and our city's MACO member for tourism and economic growth, James Force. There have been extensive engagements with many of the facilities. Our law enforcement staff are visiting hotels. Those are deployed to the CBD, because remember, we also have an additional CBD deployment that followed the 1,300 LEAP staff we deployed in the high priority areas around the city. And so they are visiting these facilities, they're speaking to tourists, they're advising them, they're meeting them on their hiking trails and around the mountain and in the CBD, so they're warning them of potential risks and guiding them whilst not sowing panic, because that's not necessary. We have the situation well in hand and it is improving, but it helps that the tourists themselves are cautious and are not making themselves unduly vulnerable, as most locals know not to do. And so we want the locals who use the mountain extensively, people from across the city who come and use the mountain, the entire mountain chain. It's a very large mountain chain. As our mayor said this morning, it's bigger than Luxembourg, just the Table Mountain National Park. So it's a significantly large area to patrol. We also are trying to make sure we protect our domestic visitors on the roads also when they travel here, those Cape Townians who are traveling out of the city through our Operation Exodus, making sure those public transport vehicles are safe and that they are roadworthy, doing those checks on them before they depart so that everybody can reach their destination safely and return safely. And then, of course, foreign visitors, warning them at the airports and the guidance given to them through the hotels. There's a visitor safety handbook, which is in digital format, which we distribute to all of the facilities and hotels, broadcasting, media, and otherwise.
JP, thank you so much for your time this evening on The Late Edition. That is JP Smith. He is the MMC for Safety and Security in the city of Cape Town.